Hello everyone, and welcome back to day 4 of the 2-week challenge. So today's theme of the day is Mokume Gane. I don't know how other people pronounce it, that's how I say it. Sorry if it's incorrect. So basically all that it is, it's a Japanese metalworking technique in which they layer thin sheets of metal in order to create faux wood textures, which is pretty much what we're going to do with the clay. These are just a few of the examples that I have here. So in this one it's the pale blue, that's the technique for today. The other one is I call it shred and stick. I've seen some other people call it watercolor, whatever. We'll cover that on Tuesday next week, I think. Here's another example. So this is actually smooth. It just looks weird. It's quite cool. It's like faux stone, like an agate type stone. And this one's dots. Okay, I'm not going to show you all of these one by one, but that's basically what's doing. So an acrylic roller is one of the tools you'll most likely end up needing. Tools for texture, so I've got a couple of different things that I use. Some ball styluses are very useful. Of course I've got my lovely core rollers, which I used the other day with the mica shift as well. I have this threaded rod. It's basically just a long screw. And that makes some really cool textures as well. Some cool rollers. I've got a big square cutter. This isn't essential, you can cut your own squares, but I like to use a cutter. And then I've got some texture sheets as well. This one's swirls. And of course you'll need your blades. Yep, that's about it, I think. So let's get started, I think. So here I've just got some clay, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll it out in the pasta machine on the thickest setting. Now there's no rule that says you should only use one color or 2 colors, or you have to use 4 colors. You use however many you want to make whatever effect you're aiming for. So this one here, for example, had 3 different colors: a red, white and black. And if you use colors that are quite contrasting, like the red and the black, or contrasting or complementary, like white and black obviously are extremes of one another, and then the red and black and even red and white go really well together. So whereas in, say, this example here, this pink, it's very subtle, but it's I just used 2 colors, just a pink and a white. So basically you don't need to use a lot of colors, but you're not limited to the amount either. Okay, make some more. I hope my mic is on tonight. Looks like it. So this color here is, again, I use Premo clay because I love it. I find Kato too difficult to work with, and Fimo ridiculously difficult to condition. And I just love Premo, so I don't really need a reason, do I? just my favorite. So this color here is called 18K gold. So it's a really pale gold color, which is really one of my favorites. And then the one that I'm conditioning now is called copper. Okay, I think I'll just use, this one is just called gold. The standard one. I don't think I have enough, so get another block. Okay, so I think 3 is enough for this particular one. Put these away. Maybe I should add a dark color for a bit of contrast. I think I will add, this is antique gold. So with this technique, the only thing to be mindful of is if you're using multiple colors, that is more than 2, you want to make sure that you don't, when you're building the layers, you don't put 2 sheets that are very similar in color. So if you're using, like I am, shades of gold, I wouldn't put these 2 on top of each other because they're too close. So that's why I wanted another dark color. Right, I don't have the container for that one. So now I'm just going to put these. Okay. So there I've got my little clay sandwich. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to run this through the pasta machine as it is. So I will compress these all together completely. So I'm going to pinch it here just to make it easier to put in my pasta machine. Okay. So now we have a much longer strip, and it's all 4 of them. I cut this in half about. So now I've got it doubled up. Oh, actually it's 4 times, but whatever. Okay. Okay, now you can keep going and run it through again and pack it back up into a block, or you can just leave it like this. So this has now got 4 layers of the colors in there. I'm actually quite happy with them like that. I'm not going to run it through again, but again, it's one of those things, you know, you make the layers as thin as you want. Just be mindful that if you continue running this through the pasta machine, eventually the colors will actually mix, so you don't want to go too many times. Okay, and then all we need to do to create those cool patterns is distress the top of this. So I'm just going to use a variety of things. I think I'm going to use some ball styluses. I have some bigger ones here, and I might even use a what is this, a Phillips screwdriver, just for some cool patterns. So I'm just pressing my tool into this, and I'm just doing this randomly, but if you want it to be a bit more controlled and have it you know, a bit more structured, of course you're welcome to do that as well. I'm just going to put some lines in that. I'm using the opposite end of the cutter because it's a bit thicker, so it makes some more defined lines, thicker at least. Okay, I'm going all the way down to the bottom with this one, but I went about halfway with my ball stylus. Let's put some stars in there. Okay, smaller dots. And maybe some big ones. Oopsies. Okay, I think that's as much as I'm going to do for this one. Find my little glass So that's what it looks like. I think that will make some really cool patterns. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to squish this back together to close those holes and those impressions. Oopsie. Of course, this is not the only or even the right way of doing this. You know, there are hundreds and thousands of polymer clay artists out there, and we all have our own ways of doing some of these things. This is the way that works for me. Okay, as always, if you have any questions or comments, or you just want to say hi, just pop it in the chat on the the right hand side of the video there, and I'll see if I can answer your questions. Right, well, those are all pretty much closed. For this project we'll need some scrap clay, so thankfully I have quite a bit of it here on my desk. I call it scrap clay, but really there's no such thing. You can always use your clay no matter what has happened to it, what's in it, what you did with it or to it. Actually, see what I mean? It's so pretty. Got a bit of green ink in there. Okay. Now, I'm going to take this, and much like a cane, I'm just going to slice it. I mean, you can slice it this way, or you can slice it this way. You know, it's entirely up to you. Hi, Heather. Thank you very much. I certainly enjoy streaming. I've been doing polymer clay for a couple of years now, and I think it's a bit sad that it's not more popular. So there's the pattern that we created. Now each slice will be slightly different because obviously we've distressed it differently. So, and the depth of the tool marks and that sort of thing would have differed from piece to piece. So try and get some thin slices of this and then lay them on my scrap clay. The beauty with this versus something like cane slices is it doesn't matter if your slices are a bit wobbly or if you cut them, you know, if you make a skew cut or for me it's actually almost 8:30 at night, so it's not really that early here. Hi Lynn. Nice to see you all back again. Right, I think that's about it for this particular piece. And now this is where the roller comes in, because it's not obviously even on the top. I'm just going to roll it out. Oh, bugger. Did you see that? Okay, well never mind, we'll just ignore that bit of green clay in there. Got stuck to my roller and I rolled it in there. So wait, it's coming off. I was lucky. There's the first one. So I'm not sure I like it. It's very it's very ugly. Lynn, you can find last night's video in my video library, or after the 2 weeks I will combine all the videos and pop them on YouTube, so don't worry about missing out on a day or two. I guess it would make a nice veneer for a pen or something. It's quite shiny. Right, so this is the second half of those 4 sheets that we did first. And I'm just going to do the same thing and build the block, but this time we'll do a bit more of a controlled design. Oops. Okey-dokey. I've lost count of how many layers there are here, but there's a few. What I'm going to do with this one is I'm actually going to use my circle cutters. Just to make, so this is just a brass tube. Let's see. It's about 8 or 9 millimeters in diameter, so it's not very big. I'm just going to flatten this a bit. To go from this side. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to cut right down to the bottom. Okay, that was supposed to come out, but it's not doing that. Pop that back in there. Seriously. go. Just going to grab one that's a little bit bigger, and I'm just going to cut into it again. Oopsie. Okay. And as tedious as that was, I'm actually going to do a third one. Nope. Couldn't figure out how that went back in there. I'm not even 100% sure it's right, but... That's enough. So again, I'm just going to compress this back. Make sure that there's no air bubbles or anything trapped in those cavities. More scrap clay. Okay, again I'm just going to take some slices from this newly reformed block and then just lay them on my little bit of scrap clay here. You can see the circles in there, it's actually quite cool. There we go. Back to the roller. There you have it. Some really cool circles on there. The antique gold, along with the yellow tones in the other gold, makes it almost look green, which I don't like. So really dull green. It's almost like an olive green. I don't like it. Okay, so that's two different ones. I actually like it better. I've just run this through the pasta machine and it's stretched out the circles a little bit, which actually makes it look kind of cool. Okay, there's that. Now I've got this little cut-off bit. I'm not sure how many layers are in there, but I'm just going to play with this. And I'm going to use one of my little core rollers. And I'm just going to make an impression in the clay with this. Little handprints. So now this is very much like the micro chef technique, where we're just going to cut off the little hands. I mean the handprints, obviously they're not hands. Now if these layers had been a bit thinner, because I think this was just one set of 4, whatever colors we used. But if this had more colors in it, then this hand would have all the colors through it if the layers were a bit thinner, which is pretty cool. Pop this off the glass. Little handprint. So this is flat. I've obviously sliced off all the little raised bits. It looks like it's got coloured handprints on there. And now I've mucked it up because I ran it through the pasta machine on a too thin setting. Right, that's another one done. Now there's not really much else. Oh, I guess there's one more thing that I can show you. What is really cool to work with is translucence in this technique. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like much when the clay is raw, as it would be here. But once you bake it, because the translucent clay changes color, obviously because it's translucent, it shows up quite beautifully some of the designs and things in the clay. Okay, so I'm just going to tint some. This is Premo translucent. I think it's the white one. So it's this one here, and okay, this one is just translucent, but I'm pretty sure that the one I'm using is white translucent. Okay, so I'm going to make some of this a bit teal. So the more opaque color you put in with your translucent, obviously the more opaque your clay is going to be. So if you just put, you know, the tiniest bit of color in with the translucent, it will be more, well, translucent when it's baked. Okay, so that's a very pale teal color. This will go darker again when it's baked, but it will also have a bit of a see-through quality to it. Leave this here for a second. I'm going to get some dark blue. This is a 50-50 mix of ultramarine Premo and cobalt Premo. Of course, you could just use translucent clays. Unfortunately for me, Premo doesn't have a translucent color range, but Fimo does, and the colors are really quite awesome. And Cernit does, and the Cernit colors are really, really nice. They have some really dark, true colors, blues and reds. And then I think the other one that we can get here in Australia, I don't know if there's others on the market, but the three that I'm mentioning are the three that we have. The third one is Pardo art clay, which is a really spectacular translucent clay. Okay, I'm just gonna make my squares again. Use a smaller square. just going to use a pearl. This is just straight pearl. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put some, I might need another one. I'm just going to put some silver leaf on the pearl clay, and because I'm using translucence, you'll be able to see the silver leaf through the pattern once it's cut. I mean, of course you can use gold leaf as well. It's, you know, it's not like there's a rule again with what you can and can't do. So for those of you who aren't familiar with silver leaf, you can buy it well, anywhere that really has art supplies. Even some of the cheap shops carry it. And it's basically just ridiculously thin foil sheets. So in this case, obviously silver, but you get gold and you get copper, and then you get some ones that have patterns on them and that sort of thing. And it's really not, it's not that expensive, and a little goes a long way. I've had this pack for probably about 3 years now, and I've barely used any of it. Okay. So now I'm just going to do exactly what we did the last time, and I'm going to layer this with the blues. This one on top. And now it has some silver on it. And then the white one. With a dark blue one on the bottom. Right. And now I'm just going to run this through the pasta machine again. And again. So the sheet isn't quite matching, but because this isn't a cane that requires precision, I'm just going to fit this piece in there. Now with this one, I'm not even sure if you can see that, if the camera is even picking it up, but I can't even count those layers. There's definitely a few in there. Squish this back together. Just made it look like a pillow. Okay, time for cutting. Isn't that pretty? I will upload photos of this onto social media because it's a bit hard for the camera to pick up the subtle nuances of this. It looks very, very pretty. And of course I don't have my little sheet ready. Let's use some of this blue. Now when this bakes, you'll be able to see a little flecks of the silver leaf that we put in there actually on this green piece, this part here that's super sparkly. All these little sparkly glittery bits, that's actually the silver leaf that's in the Mokume Gane here. So it's all over. It's not a solid sheet of silver leaf anymore. It's all crackled and spread out, and it's you'll just be able to see little flakes of it throughout once it's baked. You can kind of see a little bit of it in there. Oh, this reflection is terrible tonight. Like I said, I'll pop some photos of this on social media. You can have a look at it. Right, and I think those are really the basics of this technique. That's really all there is to it. You don't have to be structured. You can use just about anything that makes impressions on the clay. You can even, when you make the little indents, instead of squishing it back together, I'll just show you quickly here. So instead of squishing this back together, I can actually just fill these little holes with anything really. I can use some of the teal clay that we used in this stack. I can use some of the blue one. And then in my slices, I'll have these solid colored dots or circles, whatever you want to call them. There. Some of this blue. With the original teal. And even because it's right here on my desk and it's a lovely color, some peacock pearl. And of course you don't just have to do 5 dots, you can do as many as you want. And of course they don't even have to be dots, they can be any shape you want, and then you just fill the cavity with whatever. Or if you put slices in and then put a solid line of like a stripe in there, you can do that as well. Like the sky is the limit, or not even, you know, you can just do whatever you want and it will always be rather spectacular. just going to squish this back together just to remove all the air that's in there. And these circles. One last cool thing with this is if you don't slice it straight, you also get a really cool effect when you sort of make gouges rather than straight long slices. So this is a great way to practice slicing because I mean, if you were so inclined, but you know, even if you make really wobbly slices, you get a really cool effect. So I'll slice this. Cool. Okay, so now the wobbly slice I was talking about, so I'm just actually flexing my blade and then I'm just going to take a gouge out of this. Because this is translucent, it probably would have been nicer on a lighter background, just with the nature of translucent clay, it will go quite dark because of the dark blue background that's on. Okay, my trusty roller. Again, my camera is not playing nicely tonight. And there you have it. That's pretty much all there is to it. If you wanted to hang out a little bit longer, I'll probably put my mic off and just play around with some more of this technique and the clay for another hour or so in a few minutes. But for now, I'm going to say good night and thank you very much for joining me, and hopefully I can see you tomorrow for day 5 of the challenge, and that is playing with some cutters, specifically the Jilly cutters that are sold by my lovely friend Jill from right here in Queensland. So if you wanted some, just there's a link at the bottom of this video that will take you to her Etsy shop. But until tomorrow night, I'll say cheers for now. Bye.